Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Stree, a movie that I watched and I'm going to talk about. October is upon us. It is just around the corner as this episode comes out tomorrow. And I plan on watching a lot of horror movies in the month of October. I've also been reviewing Indian films every week, so I am going to be checking out some horror movies from India. And this one will be the first to kick that off just as we are entering into October. This is a movie directed by Amar Kaushik. This came out in the year 2018. Let me read the synopsis here. In a small town of Chanderi, the menfolk live in fear of an evil spirit named Stree, who abduct men in the night. Based on the urban legend of Nale Ba that went viral in Karnataka in the 1990s. So this is based on an urban legend that was popular in the 90s. And it's a fun movie. This is a horror comedy film. I would say the vibe of this film is very similar in a lot of ways to Shaun of the Dead. You have Stree, which is Stree. She's kind of like a witch, and she haunts this town for 4 nights. Everybody in the town believes in this haunting. They all write a saying on the outsides of their homes in order to protect themselves. "Oh, Stree, come back tomorrow." It is a saying that is written that, convinces or confuses the ghost from haunting them, from taking the men away. And it's an interesting, unique story. Fun characters. Our main character's name is Vicky. He is a tailor. He is a guy who is a magic when it comes to sewing and altering clothing. It's like a talent he has, but he always felt like he was destined for something more. So all of those things kind of play into this story. All of the people that work with him are in awe anytime, like his speed and accuracy of ability to do things, to make alterations. He's able to just take people's measurements by just looking at them, having them turn around. And it's just, everybody's in awe of this guy's ability, but he's just a normal guy trying to have fun. It's him and his 2 friends. And, they're young. They like to go to parties. They like girls. They like doing, he's not all, he doesn't want to become a tailor like his dad. He wants something bigger for his life. And then things start happening, because this is the time in which, like, we see an old man going around painting the saying, the phrase on the outside of buildings. There's 4 nights of festivals. So this movie is kind of split up, showing each of the 4 nights of the events that happen while the town slowly gets invaded by Stree and people start disappearing. There's some fun, awkward moments. There's some creepy moments. There's some funny moments. Overall, I really enjoyed this film. I enjoyed the performances. It's also a movie that clearly sets up for a second film. So I believe sometime this year is supposed to be the release of Stree 2, which I'm looking forward to. It's fun. The story itself is interesting. The mythology of this story, where it's based on Stree, was basically a prostitute back in her time, never was shown any respect, as most sex workers are, and she was in love and was never able to have her marriage, her wedding, and comes back to haunt the men, haunt the town. And in that, there's people trying to figure this out. There's a woman who's been studying, learning the ways in which to attack Stree, to eliminate her, to remove her powers. So there's a lot of things going on. But it's fun. It's fun. The characters are fun. All that stuff's fun. I will be spoiling this movie as I talk about it. I want to talk about certain events, certain things that happen in this movie. So be warned, I am going to be spoiling this movie. But if you want to check it out, it is on Netflix. It is available to watch fairly easily. I love watching Indian films on Netflix. As far as the service is concerned, it's easy to watch. I enjoy it. There's subtitle situation. I prefer to Amazon Prime. So there's a lot of movies on my watch list for Amazon Prime that I dread watching because I know the subtitle situation is going to be a bummer. But there are some horror movies, so I will be watching some over there as well. But I enjoyed it. It's a fun way to kind of dip your toe into a horror comedy. Definitely, like Shaun of the Dead, it has definite creepy moments. The character design for Stree is great. Definitely some jump scares, definitely some creepy moments, but also a lot of funniness, a lot of awkwardness. It also has like kind of the awkwardness of boy loves girl, but girl might be a ghost or a spirit. But anyway, so let's get into it. With aspects of this movie, specifics of this movie. I thought it was interesting that the whole town believes in this thing, right? They believe like there's even, businesses set up in order to get blessed so that Stree doesn't haunt you. There's obviously the guy who goes to house to paint the message on the buildings. All of that stuff is fun and kind of like, I'm trying to think while watching this, I was trying to think because there has to be in America, and I'm sure the origins for certain things, certain decorations and things like that in certain holidays are done so for similar reasons to try and ward off evil spirits. So I'm sure there are aspects that would be relatable as far as Western society in America, comparing to this town. But I couldn't think of any because I don't know the origins of all the insane things that happen in the U.S. But it was fun, and I enjoy watching Indian films anyway because it's completely new environments, completely new. I mean, there's definitely stuff that's universal and relatable with just humankind, but to be set in different environments where there's different religious practices going on and just different types of people and different kind of, even just like culturally slightly different things, how things are handled. I love in this movie that the term friendship has a dual meaning, and that dual meaning brings in some comedic moments because it is kind of, it's a term that could be easily confused because friendship, in addition to just being friends, people who are friendly to each other, it's also a term that refers to hiring a prostitute and having sex, having friendship with a woman, which is funny. I mean, it's an interesting term that's used. That's like a common term, at least in that area, in that town, but leads to some miscommunication and some fun stuff, but I enjoyed that. Let's take a little break from the show to promote. I have Inspired Disorder Plus. Would you feel good about donating $5 a month to an artist that you want to support? $5 a month is not much, less than a price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks. A lot of people would probably say, yeah, Inspired Disorder Plus, people can go, and for $5 a month or $50 for the year, you get access to all of the old podcasts that I've ever done, like 10 different podcasts, hundreds of podcast episodes. You also get access to like special deals. So if you do want to collect my artwork, you get discounts on stuff. Watch this show, binge the full week ad-free for $5 a month. Like, you get benefits for the $5 a month or $50 a year. So it's not like you're just donating $5. There's something, you get something for that. Would you feel good about donating $5 a month to an artist that you want to support? A lot of people would probably say, yeah. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. And now let's get back to the show. There's obviously the awkward sex talk that the dad has with Vicky because there was a prostitute that came to a party for one of his friends. His friend ended up disappearing, so she never got paid. So she shows up to Vicky's the tailor shop, and the dad pays her off because she knows what she was there for. And that he has like an awkward, almost like American Pie in some ways, sex talk. He's like, "Listen, son, one day you'll find a woman and you won't have to pay for stuff." And it's like, it's good to have those feelings to pay for stuff. Sometimes you should just handle yourself, deal with it on your own to please yourself. Like, it's a very awkward conversation for Vicky to be having with his dad. But I enjoyed that. It's just one of the many, the friend group he has with him and Janan and what was the other friend? Vicky, Janan, and Rudra, I think, was the third friend. No, Bitu. Bitu, Janan, and Vicky. I enjoyed them. Janan kind of is like a McLovin type of a character. There's a scene where Janan and Bitu are walking back, having to walk because their motorcycle constantly runs out of gas. He only puts a very small amount of money into buying fuel all the time, which leads to a lot of arguments. But they're walking home. Somebody's already disappeared, and there's certain rules that you have to abide by in order not to get abducted by Stree. And they're both freaked out, and they didn't get all of the rules, which, of course, is a hilarious moment where this guy comes by, and he's telling them the rules, but gets interrupted with a phone call before he gives them the final and most important rule. But they're walking home, and it's just Janan getting freaked out of every little thing, and it's hilarious. Like probably my favorite character in this movie is Janan. And then he ends up getting disappeared, but then comes back possessed, which I enjoyed that as well. Kind of an addition to the terrifying nature of it. But I love that as well, that him trying to get home, but getting freaked out. There's a scene where they all go, where they're investigating like this abandoned, I don't know if it's like a abandoned building or like an abandoned village, but they're going there to investigate, to try and track down Stree because they have a plan that they think they're going to be able to do something. And while they're there, they end up splitting up, which is always the worst idea. But it leads to, kind of some terrifying stuff, some funny stuff as well. It's always funny when Vicky is getting scared. He's like crying to his daddy, like, "Daddy, please save me, Daddy." I love that moment as well. But the character design for the witch is like super creepy. It looks like she's almost, even the sound effects before you see her, it sounds like, she's like, she nods her head from side to side. And when she does that, it's like crinkling plastic, right? Like it's, or like, it's something that's very stiff and crackly. And when you look at her, it almost looks like she was burnt. And she like floats and has like a crazy face look. The design was pretty cool. So I love that. And creepy. The way she flies is a lot of fun too. Which there's scenes where you see from her point of view, where the camera's just kind of floating around. But yeah, definitely a good character design as well. The love story between Vicky and the unnamed woman, where for a lot of this movie you think that she is Stree because none of his friends have seen her. He only meets her at certain times, and she gives him like a list in a love letter of like weird things, like basically ingredients for a witch's brew, like the hair of a white cat and the tail of a lizard and like a pint of rum and like all these different ingredients that he needed to get for their first date or whatever. So the movie, in a lot of ways, is trying to make you think that this woman is Stree. And then we find out that she's not. And she's actually somebody that's there because she's been trying to hunt down Stree, which we find out to gain her powers. But she is on the same side as them, so they kind of team up. And there's also another guy who's like done research on Stree and has all these books, but one of his books had pages torn out come to find out, I think, or we're supposed to be led to assume that this unnamed woman was the one that snuck in and stole those pages, and those pages referred to how you could defeat Stree. So those were the ingredients that she had this dude get. So it's like you have the comedic part of misunderstanding who a person is, but also how that can apply to a horror film. I love that as well. The constant stuttering of Vicky whenever he's like confronted with her, because he's so, he's got this amazing talent to like sew, and she wants him to sew a dress for her, to alter a dress for her. But also he's like still like a nervous kind of a guy. I enjoyed their kind of back and forth and that little love story as part of this movie, and how it's her being kind of scary, right? When he finds out that she's potentially Stree, she's potentially the one. And then when you find out that she's not, and it's kind of a turn for her character, is interesting as well. The mythology, the story behind Stree is good. So it's like, it's kind of fleshed out a bit, the backstory of it. The idea of the person that could defeat Stree to protect the city, how that ends up being Vicky, and how like different aspects of his life, and in finding that out, he understands and discovers who his mom was, and understanding that his dad maybe had some friendships that led to some things happening, which I love that aspect as well. Kind of like all of these things that happen in this movie that slowly like kind of change the dynamic between all these different relationships. I enjoy, and having Vicky, somebody who thought he was destined for something more, to have that realize that he is actually, it's bad news in some ways because it reframes who his mom was, but also it kind of justifies the fact that he is like this person that is destined for more in that town. Let's take a little break from the show to promote The Many Faces. That's right, I am also an artist. I do ink paintings on paper of abstract faces. A new face, a new painting gets released every single day over at inspireddisorder.com. So head on over to my website to purchase original artwork directly from the artist. Also, there are prints available for select images. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com, buy original art, buy prints if that's your jam, if you want 8x10 prints on high quality paper. Also, if you're looking to wear some art, there are shirts available with original artwork by myself. Select faces from The Many Faces are also available in t-shirt form. You go to inspireddisorder.com, you buy original artwork, you buy prints, you buy shirts. You're supporting an artist directly. And if you're the type of person that likes to invest in NFTs, there are also NFTs available for select faces. Go to inspireddisorder.com now. And now let's get back to the show. The end a little bit confusing. I actually had to look up the end. So they do the thing, like their plan, they have this plan. Of course, the plan falls apart immediately, which is hilarious, and things don't go well. But the idea is that if he cuts off the braid of the ponytail braid of Stree, that will take away her powers. And he's able to do that, right? And in the last, not the last scene, but close to the last scene, where the unnamed woman is leaving town, right? She succeeded in her mission. Stree is apparently not dead, but they have taken her powers. And there's a scene where she pulls the braid out of her bag and she kind of blends it into her hair, which I didn't know what that meant and then she disappears. So from what I read, I had to read to kind of clarify, because that brought up questions like, wait, were they like two sides of the same coin? But the idea is that this woman, goes around collecting powers of these different spirits. That she's done this before with other spirits, and Stree was just another one of these spirits that she's gone and was able to get her powers in that ponytail, and she absorbed that power, which allows her to disappear. Setting up that character for another movie to probably go and steal powers of another, unless I can't see it being Stree, even though the final scene of this movie is Stree showing up next year, and out front of the town is a statue of Stree honoring Stree, and instead of the saying on the wall being "come back tomorrow," it is "Stree, please protect us." So it's something that they wanted to honor Stree instead. And also, to go back real quick, I really enjoyed when they were breaking down, trying to make their master plan of how to defeat Stree. And they're going over what they've done and what seems to work, having those things written on the wall that tell Stree to come back tomorrow, right? So they break it down perfectly. It's like, well, we know this ghost can read, right? Obviously, she's able to read these things written on the outside of the buildings. Not only is she able to read, but she's able to obey what's written there to come back tomorrow, right? So she can read, she obeys what she's read, but she's stupid because she doesn't understand that message is still there tomorrow, and that it's just for her to, like, tomorrow never comes, right? Because the next day is today, it's not tomorrow. So, and the same message is there, and it's the same reaction to the same message, which I enjoyed that because it logically breaks it down. Like, well, if this was real, then the ghost can read that particular language and will obey. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I got to come back. But also is too dumb to realize the IQ is a little bit lower. So too dumb to realize that same message is there, asking her to do the same thing again, which I appreciated that as well. But that final scene where they're like, she's never been, they discuss, like, this town has always feared her, has always, like, disrespected her from when she was actually alive and a person, because she was a prostitute and, like, all of these things. So for them, when she comes back the next year to haunt this town, there's a statue in her honor asking her to protect the town. So it's a nice conclusion for the town to then have respect for this sex worker, to maybe have her protect the town. Although maybe she grew back the hair, so now she's got powers again. I don't know how that works. I don't know if Stree has the powers anymore, but still alive, still exists. Maybe not alive, but exists, this witch that haunts the town. But obviously, they have a new dynamic with her, which I like that. It's kind of a positive ending. They didn't kill her. They just took her powers. This unnamed woman, still very mysterious, steals these powers. The goofy kids survived. There's a great scene where, like, all of the men who had been stolen, like, by the third night, like, 20 men had been stolen from the town. So, like, it got real. Like, it had just been one dude each night, and then all of a sudden 20 dudes are gone. And there's this great scene where they're all walking back to the town after having gone and kind of split up, and I think they run into her, the unnamed woman, for the first time, and they're all walking back in slow-mo, and it's just a bunch of naked dudes walking in slow motion behind them back to town. Funny. Like, a lot of funny moments. Definitely has Shaun of the Dead vibes. I loved it. I'm excited. I will definitely watch the sequel. It's a fun horror movie. A fun ride. I enjoyed it, and I liked the kind of mythology and everything behind it as well. It was a lot of fun. So check it out. It's on Netflix. Stree. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out. much.
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.